Welcome to my channel. Please support my channel with subscribe, like, and share. Thank you. The night was young, and the city lights outside the ballroom windows shimmered like a sea of tiny stars. Emily Parker adjusted her navy blue dress nervously in front of the mirror. She could hear the soft hum of voices and laughter from the party downstairs. A charity gala she and her husband, Daniel, had been invited to. It was a night that promised glamour, sparkling chandelier, and polite conversation, but for Emily, it carried a quiet tension she couldn't shake. Emily had been married to Daniel for almost 7 years. On the surface, their life looked perfect. They lived in a beautiful townhouse in Chicago, drove luxury cars, and hosted dinners that always left their friends complimenting their taste. But lately, something had been off. Daniel seemed distant, his smiles polite but not warm, his attention fleeting. Emily tried to ignore it, hoping it was just stress from work. But a part of her felt a growing worry she couldn't name. The gala was in full swing when they arrived. Waiters passed trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres, while a live band played a gentle jazz melody. Emily took a deep breath and followed Daniel through the crowd of elegantly dressed guests. People greeted them with smiles and nods, and Emily forced herself to smile back, though her heart raced with a strange mix of anticipation and unease. "Emily, you look stunning tonight," Daniel said softly, leaning close so only she could hear. His words made her heart flutter, the old warmth of their connection briefly rekindling. She smiled, her nerves easing just a little. "Thank you," she whispered, feeling the silk of his tie brush against her arm. "You clean up nicely too." For a moment, it felt like the Daniel she remembered, the man who could make her laugh with just a glance, who knew exactly how to calm her fears. But as they mingled, she noticed him often drifting away, greeting acquaintances with a charming smile that never quite reached his eyes when he looked back at her. Emily tried to push the thought aside, telling herself tonight was about enjoying the party, celebrating with friends, and maybe even rediscovering the spark they once had. Halfway through the evening, Emily excused herself to the restroom. The room was quiet, a stark contrast to the laughter and chatter below. She looked at her reflection and sighed. Sometimes she wondered if Daniel noticed the effort she put into their marriage, the dinners, the surprises, the small gestures meant to keep love alive. Was it enough? Was he still the man she had fallen in love with? Or was she clinging to a memory that no longer existed? As she washed her hands, she felt a tap on her shoulder. Startled, Emily turned to see Daniel standing there, his expression unusually serious. "Emily, can we step outside for a minute?" he asked, his voice low and insistent. A shiver ran down her spine. Something in his tone told her this wasn't just a casual conversation. She nodded, and they walked toward the balcony overlooking the city. The night air was cool, and the lights below twinkled like a distant galaxy. Emily felt her heart pounding not just from nerves, but from anticipation. Daniel took a deep breath and looked at her. "Emily, I've been meaning to tell you something," he began, and for a moment, his eyes held a vulnerability she hadn't seen in years. Her chest tightened, a mix of fear and hope swirling inside her. Before he could continue, a familiar voice called out from the balcony entrance. "Daniel, there you are." Emily turned to see Jessica, one of Daniel's colleagues from work. Jessica's smile was radiant, and she leaned in to greet him with a hug. Emily felt a pang of something she couldn't quite name, jealousy, maybe, or an unspoken tension. Daniel returned the hug, his arms lingering just a second too long. Emily's mind raced. She had always trusted Daniel, but in that instant, a small seed of doubt planted itself in her heart. She forced a smile and excused herself, retreating slightly from the scene. When she looked back, Daniel was watching her. A shadow of guilt, or was it longing, crossing his face? Emily felt a sudden pull, a mix of curiosity and fear, wondering what he was about to say to her. The night, which had started as a celebration, now carried a weight she couldn't ignore. And then, as the music floated up from the ballroom, Emily noticed something that made her heart stop, a gesture, a glance between Daniel and Jessica that seemed too intimate, too knowing. For a split second, the man she thought she knew seemed like a stranger. Her mind spun. Could she be imagining it? Was her heart warning her of something she didn't want to see? She wanted to believe Daniel, wanted to cling to the memories of their life together. But the tension between them, man, whatever was happening downstairs was undeniable. Emily turned back toward the city lights. Trying to steady her breath, she told herself to stay calm, to wait and listen before jumping to conclusions. But deep down, she knew tonight could change everything, and she didn't know if she was ready for the truth. The soft hum of the party, the distant laughter, and the glittering lights below all faded into the background as Emily's thoughts swirled with a single Haunting question. What was Daniel really thinking, and what was he about to do next? Her heart raced, and for the first time in years, Emily felt that sense of uncertainty and anticipation. The kind that made you both terrified and unable to look away. The night had just begun, and already, Emily realized this party was going to be unlike any other. Something was about to happen, something that would test her trust, her heart, and the bond she thought was unbreakable. Emily stepped back from the balcony, still feeling the chill of the night air, her mind swirling with doubts she couldn't shake. Daniel followed her, his steps hesitant, almost apologetic. The music from the ballroom floated up, soft and dreamy, a stark contrast to the storm brewing in Emily's heart. "Emily, I need to explain," Daniel said, his voice quieter now, almost pleading. His eyes searched hers, but she didn't know if she was ready to hear what he had to say. The warmth she had once felt melted into a mix of curiosity and apprehension. Before Emily could respond, Daniel's phone buzzed in his pocket. He glanced at it quickly, his brow furrowing. "It's Jessica," he muttered. Emily felt a flicker of unease. The name alone carried an edge of tension. "Is everything okay?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Daniel hesitated, then gave a small, almost guilty smile. "Yes, mostly, but I have to handle this. It won't take long." Emily's heart sank slightly. She wanted to trust him, wanted to believe that whatever this was, it had nothing to do with her marriage. But the earlier glance between Daniel and Jessica replayed in her mind, a silent warning she couldn't ignore. As Daniel walked away, Emily stayed on the balcony, staring at the city lights below. She tried to focus on something else, the soft breeze, the glow of the streets, but her thoughts kept circling back to Daniel. Was he hiding something? Or was it her imagination, magnified by the unease that had been growing for weeks? Moments later, Daniel returned, but he wasn't alone. Jessica walked beside him, laughing softly at something he had said. Emily's stomach twisted. She forced a smile, but it felt strained, fragile. "Emily," Jessica called brightly, coming forward. "I don't think we've met properly. I'm Jessica." Emily extended her hand, keeping her tone polite. "Nice to meet you, Jessica." The two women exchanged brief smiles, but Emily sensed a subtle tension. A kind of unspoken connection between Daniel and Jessica that made her pulse quicken. She told herself to breathe, to remain calm. She had no proof, only feelings and fleeting glances. Yet the unease was undeniable. As the evening progressed, Emily tried to focus on the gala itself, the charity auction, the speeches, the soft music, but Daniel seemed distracted, drawn repeatedly to conversations she wasn't part of. Emily felt herself shrinking in the crowd, invisible in a room where she once felt like the center of Daniel's world. Finally, Emily found herself near the dessert table, picking at a chocolate tart she didn't even want. Her thoughts were interrupted when she felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned to see Daniel standing there, his expression unreadable. "Emily, I need to show you something," he said, and without waiting for her response, he led her through a side door to a quieter room. The hum of the party faded, leaving only the echo of their footsteps and Emily's racing heartbeat. Inside, Daniel stopped and turned to her. "I didn't want you to find out this way," he said, his voice low, "but you need to know the truth." Emily felt a mix of fear and anticipation. Her mind raced with possibilities, none of them comforting. She took a deep breath, preparing herself. Then, Daniel did something completely unexpected. He pulled out a small box from his pocket and handed it to her. Emily's hands trembled as she took it. She opened it slowly, revealing a delicate silver necklace, shimmering under the soft light. "I wanted to give you this tonight," Daniel said, his eyes searching hers for a reaction. "I know I haven't been perfect lately, but I've been thinking about us, about how much you mean to me." Emily stared at the necklace, her emotions a whirlwind, relief mixed with confusion, warmth mingled with doubt. Daniel's gesture was sweet, romantic even, but why had it felt so tense before? Why did her heart still feel like it was holding its breath? Before she could speak, the sound of laughter echoed from the party. Emily turned slightly and saw Daniel glance toward the main room, his expression unreadable. There was something unspoken in his eyes, a complexity she couldn't yet decipher. Emily felt a flicker of hope, but also the shadow of unease. Could love survive when doubt had already crept in? Could a single gesture erase the tension of the past weeks? The night, which had begun as a simple gala, had turned into a maze of emotions, trust, longing, fear, and a fragile hope. And Emily knew, deep down, that tonight would reveal more than just the sparkle of city lights or the shimmer of a necklace. Something was about to happen, something that could change everything between her and Daniel, and she wasn't sure if her heart was ready for it. Emily held the delicate silver necklace in her hands, the cool metal contrasting with the warmth swelling in her chest. For a moment, the world outside the small room, the music, the laughter, the swirling lights of the gala felt distant. Daniel's eyes were fixed on her, earnest and gentle, as though he were searching for a spark of forgiveness or understanding. "Emily," he began, "I know I've seemed distant lately. I've let work and other things take my focus away from us, and I'm sorry." His voice was soft, filled with sincerity, and Emily felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this was the moment when everything could begin to mend. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to reach out, to hold on to the man she had fallen in love with all those years ago. But a small voice in her mind reminded her of the fleeting glance between Daniel and Jessica, the subtle warmth in their interaction. Emily pushed the thought away, telling herself it was just her imagination. "Daniel, I don't want to feel like I'm losing you," Emily admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "I've missed us. I've missed this being close, feeling connected." Daniel stepped closer, his hand brushing against hers. The touch was electric, a reminder of the intimacy they once shared. "Emily, you're not losing me. You never have," he said. His tone was filled with a quiet determination, and for a moment, Emily wanted to believe it completely. Then, just as the moment felt like it could blossom into something comforting, the door to the room opened slightly. A server peeked in, holding a tray of champagne glasses, and Emily and Daniel both startled. The spell was broken, and Emily felt a pang of disappointment. She realized how fragile these moments were, how easily the world could intrude on the quiet intimacy they both craved. They returned to the party together, Emily holding the necklace tightly in her hand. As they walked back into the crowded ballroom, the lights and laughter felt heavier now, almost oppressive. Emily noticed how Daniel interacted with the other guests, how he smiled and conversed with ease, but there was a part of him that seemed unreachable, just out of her grasp. At one point, Daniel was called away to greet a prominent guest. Emily wandered near the edge of the dance floor, watching couples sway to the soft jazz music. She felt a strange mix of loneliness and anticipation. The necklace in her hand was beautiful, yes, but it couldn't erase the uncertainty that lingered in her chest. As she stood there, her gaze drifted across the room and she saw something that made her heart skip a beat. Daniel was laughing with Jessica again, closer than before, leaning in as she spoke. There was a warmth in his expression, a tenderness that Emily hadn't expected, and though he hadn't done anything overtly wrong, the subtle closeness between them sent a ripple of unease through Emily's heart. Emily turned away, trying to steady her thoughts. She reminded herself that Daniel loved her, that he had given her this beautiful necklace as a gesture of affection. But still, the image of him laughing with Jessica lingered, a soft shadow at the edge of her mind. Moments later, Daniel returned, his smile directed solely at Emily. "Are you okay?" he asked, his hand brushing lightly against hers. Emily nodded, forcing a small smile. She wanted to trust him, to believe in the love they had shared for so many years. But something inside her had shifted, a quiet awareness that love wasn't always simple, that hearts could be tested in unexpected ways. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of speeches, polite conversation, and laughter. Yet Emily felt a tension she couldn't ignore, a delicate thread connecting her curiosity, longing, and fear. Every time Daniel stepped away, even briefly, her mind wandered to the possibility that something more was happening, something she might not be ready to face. As the gala drew to a close, the crowd began to thin. Emily and Daniel stepped outside into the cool night air again. The city lights stretched out before them, glittering like a promise of something uncertain yet full of potential. Daniel took her hand gently, holding it in his as they walked along the quiet street. "Emily," he said softly, "I want tonight to be a reminder that we're stronger than any doubts, any distractions. I want us to focus on what we have on us." His voice was filled with a quiet sincerity that made Emily's heart ache with both hope and fear. She looked up at him, searching his face for truth, for reassurance. And in that moment, she realized that love wasn't always clear or easy. It was fragile, tested by uncertainty, but worth fighting for if both hearts were willing. Emily didn't know what tomorrow would bring, or whether the small flicker of doubt she felt would grow into something larger. But tonight, in the quiet of the city streets and the soft glow of the lights, she chose to hold on to hope for Daniel, for their love, and for the possibility that their story wasn't over yet. And yet, something about Daniel's expression lingered in her mind, a subtle tension she couldn't quite define. A question hovered between them, silent and unspoken, leaving Emily's heart racing with anticipation. The night had grown quiet as Emily and Daniel walked back toward their car. the distant hum of the city blending with the soft sound of their footsteps. Emily clutched the silver necklace in her hand, its shimmer reflecting the streetlights above. She wanted to believe in the calm, in the connection she still felt with Daniel, but a subtle unease lingered in her chest. "Emily, wait," Daniel said suddenly, stopping mid-step. He turned to face her, his expression serious, almost urgent. "I didn't want to do this in front of everyone, but I can't wait any longer." Emily's heart skipped a beat. The way he looked at her intense, searching made her both nervous and curious. She felt her pulse quicken. "Daniel, what is it?" she asked softly. He took her hands in his, the warmth of his palms grounding her. "I know tonight has been confusing. I know it may have seemed like I was distant, like I was not fully here. But Emily, you have to know, there's no one else. You're the only one I want to be with." Emily's breath caught. His words were sincere, yet memories of the moments with Jessica replayed in her mind. She wanted to trust him completely. But the tension of the evening had planted a seed of doubt that she couldn't shake. Daniel seemed to sense her hesitation. He reached into his pocket again and pulled out something she hadn't expected, a folded piece of paper. "I wrote this for you," he said, his voice soft, almost reverent. "I didn't want to risk losing my words in the crowd, so I wrote down what I feel. Just read it, okay?" Emily unfolded the note with trembling hands. The words were simple, yet filled with emotion. "Emily, every day I spend with you reminds me why I fell in love with you. I know I haven't always been perfect. I know I let distractions and stress take my attention away from what truly matters. But tonight, I want you to know that you are my heart, my home, and my future. No one else matters, and nothing ever will. I love you." Tears welled up in Emily's eyes. The sincerity of his words, the vulnerability, the effort, it all touched her deeply. For a moment, the doubts that had been gnawing at her heart seemed to melt away. She wanted to believe him, to hold on to this night as a turning point, a chance to reconnect and rebuild what had been strained. Daniel gently wiped a tear from her cheek. "Emily, please believe me," he whispered. "I don't want to lose us over misunderstanding or fear. I need you to trust me." Emily's hands trembled as she held his. She felt the love that had once been effortless between them, the spark that had drawn her to him all those years ago. And yet, a small part of her remained cautious. Love, she knew, wasn't just about words, it was about actions, about consistency, about the reassurance that what you feel is real. Just then, her phone buzzed. Emily glanced at it and saw a message from a friend who had been at the gala. "Hey Em, did you see Daniel tonight? I swear, he looked like he was going to propose to Jessica or something. Crazy night." Her heart raced. The timing of the message, the gossip from someone else, it was enough to make her question everything she had just heard. Emily felt torn. The warmth of Daniel's confession clashing with the uncertainty creeping back into her mind. Daniel noticed her hesitation. "Emily, it's nothing. I promise you," he said, his tone firm yet tender. But Emily could see the strain in his eyes. He wanted to convince her, to make her believe, yet even he seemed aware of the fragile thread. Their trust was hanging on. The city lights flickered around them as they stood on the sidewalk. Emily clutched the necklace, a symbol of Daniel's love, but also a reminder of the uncertainty that had shadowed their evening. She didn't know if the night would bring closure, or if it was only the beginning of a journey that would test their love in ways she hadn't imagined. Then, Daniel did something completely unexpected. He knelt down on one knee right there on the quiet street, looking up at her with a mixture of hope, vulnerability, and love. "Emily," he said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes, "I know I've made mistakes. I know I've been distant, but tonight, I want to make things right. Will you give me the chance to show you, every single day, that you're the only one I love?" Emily's breath caught. The moment hung between them, electric and fragile. She could feel her heart pounding, torn between the fear of being hurt and the longing to believe in the man she loved. The street was silent, except for their breaths, the city seeming to hold its own breath along with them. Emily knew that whatever she decided in that moment could change everything. Love had brought them here, but trust would determine where they went next. And just as she opened her mouth to respond, a sound from the street made both of them freeze. Someone was approaching, someone whose presence could change everything in an instant. Emily froze, her heart hammering in her chest as the figure on the street approached. The dim city lights revealed a familiar silhouette, and Emily felt a sudden surge of panic mixed with confusion. Daniel's hand tightened around hers instinctively, as if sensing the sudden tension that cut through their fragile moment. It was Jessica. Her smile was bright, almost too bright for the quiet street, and she waved casually as she walked closer. Emily's mind raced. What was she doing here, at this hour, in the middle of the city? after the gala? And more importantly, why did Daniel's expression change the way it did when he saw her? Daniel, Emily. Jessica called cheerfully, oblivious to the sudden tension hanging in the air. She approached them, her steps confident, her presence commanding attention without trying. Emily felt her stomach twist. The intimacy of the moment she had just shared with Daniel, the necklace, his heartfelt words, the kneeling proposal suddenly felt fragile. Like a delicate bubble that could burst with one careless gesture. She looked at Daniel, searching for reassurance, but his expression was unreadable. Jessica, Daniel said, his voice calm but firm. He stepped slightly in front of Emily, a protective shield she didn't know she needed. What are you doing here? Oh, I just wanted to say goodbye before heading home, Jessica replied, her eyes flicking between them. There was a strange softness in her gaze toward Daniel. A warmth that made Emily's heart sink even though she tried to dismiss it. Emily's pulse quickened. She could feel the necklace in her hand, heavy with meaning, yet powerless against the doubt creeping into her mind. She wanted to trust Daniel, to believe in the love they had built over the years. But the way he and Jessica interacted, small glances, casual touches, was enough to make her question everything. Daniel took a deep breath. Jessica, it's late. Maybe we can talk tomorrow at work, he said politely, but there was an edge to his tone, a subtle firmness that reassured Emily. Jessica smiled, a little too knowingly, and nodded. Of course. Just don't forget about our meeting tomorrow, she said, then turned and walked away, leaving Emily and Daniel alone on the street. The silence that followed was thick, almost suffocating. Emily could feel her emotions swirling, relief that Jessica had left, but also a lingering unease. She looked at Daniel, searching his eyes for answers, for reassurance that the intimacy they had just shared was real, that he truly belonged with her. Emily, Daniel began, his voice soft, gentle, but heavy with emotion. He reached for her hand again, holding it with a firmness that felt grounding. I know tonight has been confusing. I know seeing Jessica, it's unsettling. But I promise you, Emily, there's nothing between us. You are the only one I love. You are my heart. Tears welled in Emily's eyes. She wanted to believe him with every fiber of her being. She wanted to reach out and close the distance between them, to hold on to the man who had just knelt before her, professing his love. But the tension of the night, the moments of doubt, the uncertainty, the subtle glances still lingered. Emily realized that love wasn't just about gestures or words. It was about trust, understanding, and seeing each other through the shadows of doubt. Daniel pulled her into a hug, wrapping his arms around her tightly. I know this night hasn't been easy, he whispered into her hair, but please, trust me, let's not let this night, or anyone else, take away what we have. We've been through so much together, and I don't want to lose us over a misunderstanding. Emily closed her eyes, letting his words sink in, the warmth of his embrace, the sincerity in his voice. The shimmer of the necklace in her hand, all of it, reminded her why she had fallen in love with Daniel in the first place. Slowly, she let herself relax, allowing a small part of her fear to melt away. But deep down, Emily knew that the night wasn't over, not in terms of emotions, not in terms of revelations. Something had shifted, something subtle yet undeniable, and she couldn't predict what the coming days would bring. The gala, the unexpected visit. Daniel's heartfelt words, they had all created a delicate tension that hung in the air like a fragile thread, and Emily realized one thing clearly. Love, even when deep and true, was never simple. It was messy, complicated, and often tested in ways you least expected. Tonight had proven that. The city lights sparkled around them as they stood on the quiet street, holding each other. Emily felt a mix of relief, longing, and uncertainty. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but she knew one thing. Her heart was still in Daniel's hands, and she was willing to trust him for now. The morning after the gala, Emily woke to sunlight streaming through their bedroom window. The silver necklace Daniel had given her glinted softly on the nightstand. Last night's events, the party, the tension, the moments of doubt still lingered in her mind, but the warmth of Daniel's embrace and his heartfelt words replayed in her heart. She found him in the kitchen, making coffee with a quiet focus, his movements calm and familiar. For a moment, Emily just watched him, noting the way the sunlight caught the strands of his hair, the gentle way he moved. It was a small, ordinary moment, but after the emotional whirlwind of the previous night, it felt sacred. Good morning, Daniel said, turning to her with a soft smile. Sleep well. Emily nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips. Better. Now, she walked toward him, feeling a mixture of relief and renewed closeness. Daniel set down the coffee pot and reached for her hands. Holding them gently. Emily, I know last night wasn't easy. I know there were moments that felt uncertain, maybe even painful. He paused, searching her eyes. But I want you to know that everything I said, every word, every gesture was true. You are my heart, my home, and my future. No one else has a place in my life, and no one ever will. Emily felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming emotion of being seen, loved, and understood. Daniel, I believe you, she whispered. I know you love me. Sometimes I need to be reminded, especially when fear sneaks in. He smiled, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. I'll remind you as many times as it takes. You're worth every word, every gesture, every effort. They stood together in the quiet kitchen, holding hands, feeling the simple yet profound connection that had always been at the core of their relationship. Emily realized that love wasn't about grand gestures alone. It was about showing up, being present, and facing doubts together. Later that day, they returned to the city streets, walking side by side, their laughter mingling with the sounds of life around them. Emily wore the necklace around her neck, its silver chain a reminder of both the vulnerability and strength of their love. Each step they took together felt lighter, more certain. And while the memories of last night's tension still lingered, Emily knew that trust had been restored not because everything had been perfect, but because they had faced it together. She looked at Daniel, and in his eyes, she saw the same unwavering love that had drawn her to him years ago. By the time they reached the park near their home, the sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Daniel stopped and took both of Emily's hands in his. Emily, he said, his voice steady and filled with warmth, I don't ever want a night like last night to shake what we have. You're my life, and I promise to show you that every single day. Emily smiled, feeling a wave of love and relief wash over her. I trust you, Daniel, and I love you, she replied, her voice soft but firm, carrying the weight of all the emotions from the night before. They embraced, holding each other close as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the city. In that moment, Emily realized that love, even when tested by doubt or uncertainty, could grow stronger when nurtured with trust, honesty, and unwavering commitment. As they walked home hand in hand, Emily felt a deep sense of peace. Last night had been a test of their love, but it had also reminded them of its depth, its resilience, and its beauty. And she knew, without a shadow of a doubt, that no matter what challenges came their way, they would face them together, heart to heart, hand in hand. The gala, the tension, the fleeting doubts, all of it had led to this moment of clarity and love. And for Emily, that was worth everything. The end.